I believe it's time for us, the people, to unite and fight against draconian policies being imposed on us by evil governments around the world. Please help me understand how we, the people, come together, formed governments by electing people whom we trust to keep things in order to protect us against dangers and some other good reason we needed the government for. Now, we're observing the governments that we've formed for our purpose are converging together against us, stripping us of all of our rights and freedom, necessities, and even our lives. Please help me understand how is this happening. I have a few things to share with you. Please stay tuned and welcome to TRJC End Time Ministry. This madness is actually happening in the UK right now. Check out this headline. Another power grab by MPs, Lois Perry, outraged by plans to jail property owners who defy net zero rules. The government of the UK proposed a bill to impose jail sentences on homeowners who fail to comply with eco guidelines. This is really scary. The government wants to make certain things a criminal offense. I think they've got a bit power hungry. It's Orwellian. Jail sentences? Here's a question for you. Between the people and the government, who has more power? I would think it's us, right? The people who elected these civil leaders. Then why are we allowing them to treat us in such a way? Why are we so afraid to remove them from power? After all, they have shown us exactly what they want is more power. Now it's time to take it all back from them.
Net zero. Who would have thought that they would impose fines if you didn't comply? So, just like ULEZ in the latest development, we could be fined and or criminalised if we don't go along with the upgrades that they're forcing us, mainly at our own expense, to make. Sounds like somewhere familiar. China or Russia, maybe? On Tuesday, when MPs come back from their 6-week break, the government's energy bill will be put before the Commons. And under the bill, ministers would be granted powers to create new criminal offences and increase fines if you or I fail to comply with good old net zero. So, say, for example, you fall foul of regulations to reduce your energy consumption, you could face up to a year in prison and fines of up to £15,000. Or, if you fail to submit the correct information of what you're using, you could also be prosecuted for provision of false information about energy efficiency or for the obstruction of an enforcement authority. Is this a joke?
But there's something else going on in this bill, which I believe to be far more sinister. And frankly, even though Parliament's just come back, I am totally astonished at the lack of media debate and coverage. But there are, unbelievably, it seems to me, provisions in this bill that would allow for the creation of criminal offences. I'm going to repeat that. Allow for the creation of criminal offences if businesses, and here's the rub, individual householders don't tell the truth or don't meet up to new energy requirements for their houses. It seems to me to be truly and utterly extraordinary. Yes, you can be prosecuted for providing false information about your house's energy efficiency or for the obstruction of an enforcement authority. Should the government be able to have these powers? I don't believe they should. Let me know your thoughts.
Good morning, gentlemen. Andrew, if we can start with you. What's wrong with this bill?
Well, it's a mammoth bill that started its life in the House of Lords some 14 months ago. It covers a plethora of issues around energy, from hydrogen to supposedly sustainable aviation fuels and everything in between. But I think it's the provisions in the bill that allow for powers to be taken by a minister to declare criminal offences, for a major extension of the powers of the state and intrusion into people's homes to see if they're complying with the latest environmental regulations, see if you've ripped out your log burner or if you're burning damp logs. And I think it's a totemic bill, which I think the vote last night, in years to come, people will very much regret passing that piece of legislation.
Just so people know this, Andrew, because it is quite an eye-opener, isn't it, that people effectively could get a criminal record if they haven't complied with some of the provisions of this bill in this dash to net zero. If you don't have the right boiler, what else could you be criminalised for?
Well, you could be for not complying in false information with regard to your environmental credentials of your property or your business. Up to a year in prison and up to £15,000 fine on each occasion. These are massive, massive intrusions, extensions of the powers of the state.
Yeah.
Friends, every one of you should realize by now that these government officials all around the world are being led by the power of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. Who in their right mind would try to make turning on your AC or burning wood in your own private home a criminal offense? Go to these politicians' mansions. They have multiple AC units running around the clock to cool their homes and heat their pools at desirable temperature. But they want to make us a criminal for trying to cool our little single-family homes that we may not even own. They want to criminalize us for their so-called climate change agenda that they have created. They are the same one who owns airplanes, helicopters, boats, mega factories spewing large amount of carbon emission into the atmosphere. But they are blaming us, the poor population who can barely make ends meet, for their wickedness. When will we wake up, people? But I came to the realization that the problem is not the government, it's us. We are the problem. Because if we didn't allow them to commit all these atrocities against us, then they would know not to even try. They are not even obeying their own policies. So why should we listen and obey these policies? They are changing the economy under a false pretext that everyone will regret once it is completed. They put us on lockdown whenever they feel like it. We are being forced to get jobbed up against our will, and if we refuse, we get punished by losing our jobs or unable to go to the grocery stores, schools, and even church for that matter. They have turned all of us against each other so we may not unite against them. They are causing chaos in all parts of the world to divert our attention away from them. They have raised the cost of living on everything to keep us from striving. They are doing all these things to us, yet we remain silent and do nothing about it. So who is the problem? Jesus said this would be the case in these last days. In Matthew chapter 24, verse number 4 through 8, Jesus said, "Take heed that no man deceive you." He said that we will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Nations will rise against nations and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. These things are happening all around us. Maui's mysterious wildfire that claimed the lives of many. California's recent flood. Morocco's massive earthquakes killing over 2,000 lives. These things are not just happening, friends. Yet, it is mind-blowing to see young and old women on social media shaking their backside, using dirty language, acting foolish. Young men and old men are doing the same thing amid all that is going on around the world today. Wake up. Jesus is coming sooner than you think. The Bible says, "As it was in the days of Noah and Lot, so shall it be in these last days." How was it in the days of old, you may ask? Well, people were complacent and evil, just like it is today. You can read that in the book of Luke, chapter 17, verse number 26 through 30. The Bible says that Satan's spirit will be working in children of disobedience in these last days, according to Ephesians chapter 2, verse number 2 and 3. These so-called leaders are responsible for most of these disasters by tampering with the environment, and innocent people are getting all the blames. Friends, put your trust in Jesus Christ. He is our only way out of this dystopian society. Things will only get worse and worse until the return of Jesus Christ in the very near future. Will you accept Him in your heart today? Tomorrow is not promising. Please subscribe for more. See you in the next one.